What do you do when you've followed God's prompting and it seems to go absolutely nowhere or doesn't end up quite where you thought? Or perhaps you've looked back because you've been faithful and you've thought, what was the point of that? I want to tell you a story about a 3.5 hour drive, a speeding ticket, and a meeting that felt like a complete waste of time, and how it was only years later that I realised that God was doing something I couldn't see. Today I want to share one of those moments when I followed God's prompting and it seemed to go nowhere. Years ago, I was attending a church that decided to do something for people struggling with their mental health, and they were going to hold a sort of discussion forum after the Sunday service. It was a chance to talk about what was needed and what the church could do to meet the need. Now, I was away in the Peak District that weekend for a short break, but I really wanted to be there, so I finished my holiday early, drove all the way back, which was about 3.5 hours, and even managed to get myself a speeding ticket on the way. And I was so excited. I was expecting something spirit-led, a conversation about how God might want to move, or an invitation for people with a lived experience of mental health issues, like myself, to share what would actually help. But that wasn't what happened. The forum was taken over by mental health professionals. And I'm not saying that mental health professionals aren't valuable, of course they are. But this wasn't a conversation where the Holy Spirit seemed to be invited to speak. It was the experts giving their professional opinions about what was needed without even asking those with lived experience of mental health what they needed. And there was no sense that God might have something to say about it too. And I'll be honest with you, I sat there in that meeting feeling completely deflated. What a waste. All that driving for this. Now, at one point during that meeting, they asked anyone who had personal experience of mental health struggles to raise their hand. I raised mine. It was the first time I'd ever acknowledged publicly, yes, I struggle with my mental health. And I didn't think much of it at the time because I was just so despondent and disheartened for days. And then when I received the speeding ticket, I asked God, what on earth was the point in all of that? But looking back, I think that all God wanted me to do that day was for me to raise my hand, to own my own story, my own challenges. But of course, that didn't make sense, and I didn't discover that until years later.